Okay. Probably gonna wait until there's a few people present. Hope, Brazil. Okay, well, hello. Liker, likey. I think I might start by organizing something. Let's see what order they're in currently. If I organize these so that they're in an order, like the same sort of trap is about the same level. Yeah, but this one is actually pretty much backwards. This one is hilarious. Present from Italy. I'm Italian, actually. Alright, you guys realize I can't understand languages other than English, right? I think I'm streaming too early. Steven, hello. I've only streamed once in the last few weeks, but thank you. Grind out a new deck. Well, good luck with that. What are you gonna grind? Might want to pick a really good deck to do. Monsters next. I'll do monster types. There's no way I'm doing like 600 monsters. How long would that would take like 10 hours for me to get through. I'd have to break up like non-effect monsters and monsters if I did that. That would be insane. Effect monster tier list. Ugh. Okay. All or nothing. I'm not that crazy. Alright, should we? Yeah, I think we should start now. Alright, I think enough bullshitting. How's it going? Alright, I hope you guys are doing well. Let's just talk about trap cards today. I don't even know where to put Gravity Bind. I'm thinking, even before I start putting other stuff in, I go A. Because there's going to be some stuff in S tier that are obviously better than this card. But in saying that, it is like the best version of any card that's like it. So, here's where I'm going to put it. And I reckon this might stay here. I don't know, we'll see. Like, there's a lot less trap cards and spell cards in this game, as you can see. How am I? I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. Hope you're doing well as well. I didn't want to say well twice in the same sentence, but I did. Anyways, so this permanently spellbinds and reduces a card's attack by 1500. That's pretty insane. It is somewhat a defensive paralyzing potion that also takes away 1500 attack, and that's a pretty big number if you consider if you're actually going to use a card like this. With the exception of deck cost limits, there's no reason to use any other trap card that's like this over this one. This just totals a monster. It basically, yeah, permanently stuns any card and reduces it by 1500, which is a pretty decent number. I mean, that would be like anywhere from a third to half of any monster's attack, like, unless it's a weak monster, then it just destroys it, but I'm talking about like powerful monsters here, obviously. Now, we haven't really defined barriers for like availability of a card being high, but if you think about it, this card is available from the start of the game, and you can, if you have more than one memory card, you can just give yourself 9 of them at the start of the game if you want. So technically, this is actually more available than like any of the cards that don't have a password. I mean, these also have passwords, so I guess they're like the same level, but... Shadow Spell, I think this is pretty good. This is basically like, almost like Mesmeric Control and Infinite Dismissal fused into one. 3-turn stun, 3 stern. The 3-turn stun is no joke if you consider the amount of things you can do in 3 turns. You can argue that it's actually almost as good as a permanent stun, if you think about it. Because a permanent stun would probably only be effective for that amount of turns, if that. So, like, the difference between a monster being effective and then suddenly not being effective for the next 3 turns is pretty much the same. Spellbinding Circle also does that, but the attack reduction is actually the equal lowest to Tears of the Mermaid, so it's really weird when you think about it. Like, Spellbinding Circle is literally this spell plus this spell, like, it's, yeah. And Mesmeric Control is like, it just eats Tears of the Mermaid. It's like, literally, I'm you but stronger. It's just 1-turn stun, but 200 more attack and defense reduction. Someone's saying that, I don't think I can really put these on the same level. They just get worse and worse, so like these have to break off at some point. 3-turn stun, both of these have the same. Shadow Spell is just 400 more attack and defense reduction. So they're pretty much the same, right? This is just like, this gives you 400 more damage if you attack the monster that walks into it. So pretty close. I mean, that may make the difference in some circumstances, but it's not like absurd. It's not crazy like a level above or anything. They're very similar. I'm almost tempted to put Infinite Dismissal in B because a 3-turn stun, in my opinion, is probably more effective than attack reduction when it's this low, if you consider there's no low deck cost card that does like no stun and high damage, which I think would have been really cool in the game if they did that, but they didn't. Like, imagine, I don't know, a 20 deck cost card that reduces a card's attack by like over 1,000 or something. Maybe 1,000 to like 1,500, but doesn't stun. That'd be a pretty interesting concept for a short range trap. What do you guys think? Infinite Dismissal, as I argued before, a 3-turn stun, is basically... It's not a permanent stun, but it's being effective for 3 turn is closer to being a permanent stun than I think a lot of people would consider. So it's either at the top of C... Yeah, I'd say the top of C. Because I don't think these cards are any joke. Like, they're not bad. They stop an attack, they stun, and those two also reduce attack damage. If you're playing casually, like, you may as well stick all these. Like, against the AI, you may as well stick all these up here. But overall, when you consider these cards are just better versions of these, there's, like, no reason to play these unless you were, like, sandbagging for deck cost. If there was, like, online matchmaking based around deck cost or some shit, but this is... There isn't. It's a single-player game on the PS2. Okay, so Widespread Ruin is the ultimate destruction trap. It is the best version of all these cards that kill a card when you attack into them. Widespread Ruin, if you position around it in a way that your monsters don't get destroyed by it, it's just a card that's guaranteed to destroy whatever attacks into it, pretty much. This card is like, when you think about it, it's a shorter ranged Mirror Force, but it also destroys, it destroys both players' cards regardless of their position. It's kind of absurd. Burping up food from earlier. Nice. So Widespread Ruin, definitely better than Shadow Spell. I think destroying the enemy card that attacks into it is more merit than permanently spellbinding it, if you think about it. It can be potentially destructive to you, but if the enemy attacks directly into this and that was the last move in their turn, then you start your turn with that entire space around this card cleared. So if you actually use this properly, it has a lot more uses than these cards that just stun whatever attacks something that's next to it. Even though this is a short range trap, it's like you can position it in a way that it covers a lot of area and just is very destructive. As a trap hole, you gotta ask yourself, how good is killing something that has less than 4,000 attack? You can play cards stronger than 4,000 attack out of the hand quite easily, actually. There's like lots of ways to do it. You can even do it on the first turn. It's not as likely, but consider, you can literally play like Meteor Black Dragon first turn and give it 2 equips. So that's 4,500. You could also theoretically play Twin-Headed Thunder Dragon. Give that 3 equips. You can also, you can even play a Curse of Dragon or Parrot Dragon on the first turn if you have the Dragon Leader abilities. And buff it with 4 equips, and you have 4,000. Well, in the case of Curse of Dragon, if you use Nails of Bane, you could have more than 4,000 on the first turn. So how good is killing something up to 4,000? Not as good as you think it is, but in the case of the fact it is the benchmark and it kills literally everything that fails to meet a 4,000 attack threshold, it is very powerful. If anything attacks into it and it's not strong enough to kill you, it just gets deleted. Hi from Indonesia, hello. It is the best of these traps, but like as I said, this is literally a better version. And I don't say literally as in like hyperbole. I mean even traced back to Forbidden Memories, this was the best version of all these destruction cards. And this game, even though it feels different, it is technically just, this kills anything that attacks it, doesn't care about its attack value. That's basically what this card is. So as a trap hole, again, destroying something is better than stunning it. Again, casually, like, trap cards are still very good, but if you just destroy things and then attack directly, or like basically eliminate something from the game and attack directly, it's better than, it's just a lot faster than doing stuff like stunning without attack reduction, or taking 3 turns to reduce something by 2,400 attack and then attacking into it. Obviously the AI are stupid and they will attack your leader directly while you have traps next to you and stuff. You can reduce anything to 0, but say if you were playing this against your friend, they probably wouldn't let you do that, no matter how bad they were at the game. Actually, well, that's a bit of a stretch. Yeah. Uncontested removal is crazy. This is technically contested. If you meet the threshold of 4,000 attack, or, yeah, 4,000, then who cares about this card, right? Compare that to something that we'll go into a bit later. It's, yeah, it'll make sense why it's B and not S or A. I mean, definitely not S if we've got Gravity Bind and Widespread Ruin in A. No way. Invisible Wire. I want to tag this on at the end of B because... actually, probably not. I think top of C. 3,000 is still decent, especially in casual. Like, enemy players don't meet this threshold that much, especially what they play out of the hand. Like, if you change the terrain to something that the enemy doesn't like and drag them away from, like, any leader ability attack bonuses they have, then... like, this is very effective, but, I can't compare it to 4,000 attack. Bear Trap. It's hard to put this in D because D will contain the worst of the worst, I'll tell you that. So these are interesting, right? Bear Trap and Ikaboon, I actually have quite a bit to say about these, funnily enough. You'd think they're pretty dumb. Ikaboon I really like because it's the same threshold as Crush Terrain. So if you use Ikaboon in a Crush strategy, right, you would kill anything that isn't immortal that would move on Crush without killing anything else. So in the context of playing defensively on Crush, and you put these on Crush, the enemy can't just trigger it with their most powerful cards. So this actually kind of is useful if you think about that, and Bear Trap is a bit of an extension on that. It's only 2 deck costs more, so it may as well be the same card, where it's... no one's really going to be playing 2,000 attack cards, unless they're playing something that's like 1,400 or 1,450 on Crush that happens to be on, like, powerful terrain next to the Crush, and it has another 500 attack. So Bear Trap may as well just be like a big brother to this card. And you can say that about all of them. You can say Invisible Wire is a big brother to that, and it keeps going, but Widespread Ruin's like the godfather of all those. So yeah. Okay. That kind of makes this House of Adhesive Tape effectively pointless, because there's no situation you would want to really play it that you wouldn't want to play Ikaboon or maybe even Bear Trap. So that's why I consider this card basically useless. There's not a lot to say about this. It kills anything that attacks near it that's 1,000 attack or less. So, you know, like, why wouldn't you just use Ikaboon? Because it's not like effects, like, think of a small or, like, yeah, some low attack and defense card like Swordsman from a foreign land trying to attack into you. There's no benefit having this card over Ikaboon, because Ikaboon would also kill, say, Beast King of the Swamps or Fiend's Hand, and, well, Fiend's Hand would also be killed by the other one, but you get what I mean. Ikaboon would just kill whatever else had an effect that didn't have a high enough attack to beat it, so yeah. Type 0 Magic Crusher, probably the worst card in the game. So it's a temporary, no, not temporary, short-ranged trap that triggers when a spell or trap or equip goes near it, or a ritual card attacks near its limited range and destroys it. So it has no effect against monsters. It only works against basically spells and traps that are on the field that actually move into it. So I have no idea why you would move any spells or traps aggressively that weren't, like, I don't know, Paralyzing Potion, but you'd probably use that card to just play it out of the hand and attack into an enemy or something, maybe, but there's no reason to play this over anything that would just stun that card if it's a spell or trap card, you know. You could argue that you would get rid of something very, very powerful like a Mirror Force, but nobody would be attacking their Mirror Force into your face down cards. That's just not how it works. So how many times have you guys played against Joey and this card has showed up and you're like, okay, like you just move a monster over it and that's the card, that's it. Hey Wizard Lizard, how's it going? Goblin fan. So this triggers against any direct life point damage, like from spells or whatever, and reverses it. So if you're comparing this to the final bosses who have Ryoku, it's S tier because it can kill them. If you play it first turn and they play 2 Ryokus on the first turn, you kill them in 1 turn. But that's under a microscope, you know. I think any other circumstance, it would only really be effective as a way to shut down life point recovery, and in a game where the life point recovery is capped at 9999, I don't imagine people would really care too much. Wait, no, apologies, burn, yeah, well, you start with 4,000, and you can realistically set up, like, strategies with face-up and defense cruels and tremendous fires, but who would do that? And anyone doing that would probably have some sort of, like, Royal Decree or something shut down this card. I don't know. I'm just trying to think of a situation to actually use this, unless someone was spamming you with damage, and it's like, once you reflect damage and it's face up, I don't think that person's going to be using a lot of damage cards until they get rid of that card, so... If the enemy uses Sparks and triggers this, you get 50 life point damage. If the enemy doesn't have any burn cards at all, it doesn't do anything. Hi Smoke, plays the Yu-Gi-Oh! Gaming channel. How's it going? Yeah, neat and good are different things. Niche and always useful is very, very different. I honestly think that the niche of these cards is why I have to put this in C somewhere, but I don't know how good it is. Countering burn cards, like, it's effective against a few duelists in the game, but we all know that AI is stupid. If you played against a human, this card would reflect one instance of damage, reveal itself, and be useless. That being said, if someone was doing just like, all they could do was burn, and you had a way to defend this and they couldn't get rid of it, then they couldn't actually beat you by burning you down, so... It's probably more useful than cards that are completely obsolete. Same with Bad Reaction as Samochi, so this counters healing, as I said before, mistakenly talking about counter burn. Counter heal is interesting because your life points are capped at 9,999, so would anyone even bother to play, like, extreme healing? The interesting thing is, if you have, like, say if you were trying to revive or get yourself to max health, or max life points rather, if you had more than 5,000 life points already and you managed to get 5,000 or more in one instance with, like, multiple face-up defense, Frog the Jams, and Niwatoris, you could theoretically one-shot yourself off of this, but again, like, healing strategies would be pretty niche. I think maybe a light female spellcaster strategy would suffer from this if they were playing Fairy's Gift, but so maybe it'd be more useful than counter burn. I don't know, it depends on what you think's better out of healing or burning. I'd argue healing is, because if you were to set up a defensive strategy with a card like the one I just mentioned that I've now forgot, Fairy's Gift, and a bunch of face-up defense nature effects that boost health, you could get 9,000 life points per turn easy, and if you did that and the enemy just chucked one of these down, you'd kill yourself. Alright, Reverse Trap. I am not really a fan of this. There's like one use I can think of this, right? Say, first turn you play this. First turn you play this, and then the enemy, first turn, what they do is... they don't know this is on the field, they just play their first hand, and their first hand is like some high attack fusion and a bunch of power-ups. They basically neutralize their own really high attack monster, if they didn't know what this was. The turn after that, you can move over it and then play something out of your hand that's even more powerful, because you've got 7 summoning stars. And then buff the fuck out of it, because you've just taken this off of the field. But the enemy could just play their card in defense mode, so it, like, I don't know, the strategy wouldn't always work, but... you couldn't play this as a card that you just leave out on the field, right? Because then you wouldn't be able to use power-ups until you got rid of it, so... using it for one turn to neutralize an enemy's hand It's probably the only good use you can get out of it. And again, you could compare that to anything like Widespread Ruin or Mirror Force, and it becomes a joke. Oh my god, actually, you know what? I gotta show you guys something, I think. Give me a second. Alright, I need to apologize. I'm profusely frustrated with myself. I have no idea where it went. It was the Prima Strategy Guide book. I have no idea where it went. I've like rearranged my room a lot lately, and it's like the one thing that I don't know where it is. I looked everywhere and I can't find it, but it says there's like a strategy near the end. I really wanted to show you guys this. It says that you play this card and then you put power-ups face down and let your opponent attack into them. And like this is literally listed as one of his like near the end of the it's near the end of the book. This is like his game-winning strategies, and this is like the last one. This is like the climax. And he's like, yeah, put down a reverse trap and play equips on the ground and like let your enemy attack into them, and it reverses their like it reduces their attack. And I'm just like, really? Why don't you just play a normal trap card? Why don't you just play Tears of the Mermaid and then just add an equip on top of your card? Like, why would you just waste your equips? Like, it's just more beneficial to put them on your monsters anyways, right? Than just playing it face down and letting... Like, what? You can just play a super strong card instead of wasting a turn to reduce the enemy attack by 500. Like, what? Yeah, I really, really, really want to show you guys that. Super badly. I'm gonna have one last quick look just in case. Alright, sorry guys, just that was a door. Allow me to grab a drink and go to the bathroom quickly, and I'll be back to finish this. And I'm back. I seriously can't believe I misplaced. Like, that's the one thing, I literally can find everything except that. Everywhere twice. It's nowhere. That's fucking weird. Alright. Well, I'm gonna forget about it. I will find it the first thing after the end of this stream without even looking. It'll pop up, guaranteed. Reverse trap is not good. I can see that one use I talked about like ages ago, but yeah. Yeah, it's probably more useful than some of this stuff. It's definitely C. Because again, like, I honestly do think if you played it in a way I suggested, you just put it down and the enemy doesn't know what it is and they complete a full hand of like 3 equip cards, it just completely deletes their opening hand, like, without you actually needing to follow up with another spell or something. As I said before, you can do that, move over this so you don't, like, you can complete your hand on your second turn without having to play anything else and just attack that low attack card and go from there if you want. So that sounds stronger than some of these other things. That's like a trap card. So, and it's a full range, so full range just makes it better than a lot of these ones, honestly, if I think about it. So I'll probably stick it at the top of C. Do I think it's as good as a 3-turn stun? Maybe not. So infinite dismissal. How does this look? Block attack. This is not good because it's just the way they made it is really weird. It's just like, problem with this is another trap that's down here. I may as well move these up. So here's a dilemma, right? This card is 25 deck cost, this is 15. So just think about this. This, according to the game, is a less valuable trap card than this one. Block attack. What this does is it cancels a move an enemy card completes in the attack position. So because the way in this game you can't select when you activate a trap, it just automatically triggers as soon as the enemy does something. It doesn't really accomplish anything. The enemy could easily fake this out if they were going for the last thing just by moving literally any other card in their deck once if they were going for the, not in their deck. On the field, they could move literally any of their other monsters on the field, like in any position, and it will trigger this, and it will just go away, and then like nothing happens. Like it does nothing. In the case if you don't want people to go into attack mode, like why? Why do you want people to stay in defense mode? Why would you ever want people to stay in defense mode? I mean, it's a good sign when people start playing in defense mode. But you don't want them to stay like that, you know, you want to end the duel, maybe you want them to go in attack position so you play stop defense. You know, that spell that people the other day were complaining that they thought it was block attack when it wasn't. So, this card is just shit. You think about this. Negate attack, this stops an attack on any of your cards. There's like no situation where you'd want to play block attack Over negate attack. Negate attack would protect your deck leader from being attacked 3 times if you had 3 of them. 3 block attacks, you know what that would do? That would stop the enemy moving 3 cards in attack position. If the enemy had 10 cards, they could move 3 of their spells or traps and then just attack with all 5 cards if they wanted to. Whereas this one, they have to attack 3 times. F tier is at the bottom of D. D basically is an F tier. Like anything that sucks is in D. That's just how it goes. C is like, well, you can use it for something, but it's not as good as a lot of the other traps. Negate attack, I think this is actually pretty good, and I think this is above C. It's a full range trap, just remember this. And again, like, deck cost doesn't matter too much, but in the case of how low of a deck cost it is a lot better than a lot of these other cards that share a similar deck cost. While something like Tears of the Mermaid will cancel an attack, stun for 1 turn, and reduce by 600, this just prevents an attack anywhere on the field. So, you know, the difference between having something that you have to position it next to something you don't want to be attacked, negate attack just stops any attack from happening for 1 instance. Does it stun? No, which kind of is lame. It doesn't destroy or stun, so I can't rate it immensely high. Hey, Monster Rage Patrick. So negate attack, probably B. Like, it is full range, which I think I can't say, you can't be like, well, infinite dismissal is a 3-turn stun, that's pretty good, right? Well, only if you hit it, you know what I mean? Negate attack just stops an attack from happening no matter where the attack is. If you have more than one of these out, the enemy has to... It's like, again, I talk about you rarely should play more than 1 copy of a card with a strategy to justify it, because you could argue 3 Mirror Force out is a lot better, which is obviously why I'm not putting it up here, but... in the case of it being a fraction of the deck cost, and... again, deck cost really doesn't matter. It's just more relative to these other ones. Like, it is a better card, way better card than these. It doesn't mean that short-range traps are not useful at all. It just means they're more likely to be effective more of the time. But I can't rate it too highly because it has no destruction or stun or reduction. Nice, Peyton. Good one. Shadow of Eyes. Alright, interesting thing. Alright, you guys know about these 2 cards, right? You probably played against Panic, and then suddenly your defense position monster gets spellbound, or you try to move a monster from attack to defense and it got spellbound and didn't complete its turn, so it was stuck face up permanently spellbound in attack mode, and you realize the enemy has this card. Shadow of Eyes, you attempt to put something in defense mode. Then this just automatically turns it into attack mode. Even if you double tap something in defense mode, this card actually changes it to attack mode. This card actually does not. It just cancels the move. Whereas this one actually, so they both react when you put a card in defense mode. This one reacts by turning it into attack mode. This one reacts by permanently stunning it. That's the difference between these cards. So what's better? Well, I mean, you'd only really play defense position stuff to avoid having shit destroyed by Mirror Force. I would imagine lots of people have their spells and traps in defense mode. And then their monsters in attack mode because they're attacking, but all the spells and traps are in defense mode in case the enemy plays... in case you attack into a Mirror Force and then it would destroy all of your cards, it wouldn't destroy any of your spells or traps because they'd be in defense mode, so... the matter of cancelling something that goes to defense mode, like, is basically the same thing as keeping in attack mode, which is what this card does. This card, like, it's rare that you'd flip something up from defense mode that was already in defense, like a flip monster, and then this moves it into attack mode, and that actually matters. Maybe against, like, Magician of Faith, if someone tried to flip it face up defense in front of, like, your highest attack monster, but otherwise, no. This card would be better because it would just permanently spellbind the card, so if on, like, you play this on the first turn, then the enemy tries to put a really powerful spell card in defense mode, like, I don't know why you'd play a spell card instead of a trap on the first turn, or a monster, but anyways, if you try to play it in defense mode to, like, be prepared to avoid it being destroyed by a Mirror Force or whatever, it would be stunned, so it would never be able to flip up unless he activated, like, either player activated Magical Neutralizing Force Field, so got to consider the difference there. This would actually effectively just stun something whenever it goes to defense mode, and again, if it is a monster, being permanently stunned is a lot bigger of a deal than just being put in attack mode. In a lot of cases, so this would have to rate higher than Shadow of Eyes. Casually, probably would do something like this. But I mean, casually, all these cards are broken, you may as well shift everything in a tier above. Casually, I would just rename the tiers like S, 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 A, B, C, but talking about against another player, you can only, with the full range traps that, like, stay face up, they're only really effective in a way on their first use. Like, this will only stun the first card. After that, it would be you can't go in defense mode. This card is always just you can't go in defense mode, and anything that's in defense mode can't move without going to attack mode. So shutting down defense strategies is pretty valuable, but I do expect that those strategies would be more than prepared to get rid of these. Consider a strategy with nature effects, right? For example, Molten Behemoth, like a 5-star Pyro deck leader, so it has 500 attack and defense, increased strength for same type friendlies deck leader. Then you have 3 face-up Molten Behemoths, and you have, like, I don't know, I guess forest terrain. And you're looking at a lot of natural damage, and if the enemy ever tries to spellbind anything you have in defense mode and you're running a strategy that doesn't involve power-ups, you can just curse break your own card, or, like, Magical Neutralizing Force Field. And Magical Neutralizing Force Field would kill this if it activated, because when a trap activates, it flips face up, and Magical Neutralizing Force Field destroys all face up traps. So all these cards that are like face up trap, long range, like full range, that just stay on the field after being used are suspect to, or rather subject to being destroyed by, like, a lot of different things, and once you know what they are, their effect does change. As I mentioned, this goes from stunning a card that goes in defense mode to being a face-up, you can't put cards in defense mode until you destroy this card. It's like, so I do like these cards for that reason, but they're effectively the same card, this is just a better version, and I don't even know if it's that much better, because this would probably stun one card before you realize what's going on, so the threat of anything being stunned if it goes in defense mode may seem insane, but I think in the context of being an enabler for a strategy like Mirror Force, it's pretty damn useful. But outside of that, it's like, well, if someone just doesn't play in defense mode, unless you play, and they're not playing Mirror Force, then you're never going to be punished for being in attack mode unless the enemy plays something more powerful than you. And if that was the case, you know, you're going to eventually overpower them and get to the deck leader anyway, so as a shutdown card, you can always run something else, like, I don't know, Royal Decree or something, so you don't have to worry about your cards running into Mirror Force or whatever. I don't think Gorgon's Eye is S at all. Casually it is, but it's easier to counter than some of these other cards. Alright, Fake Trap. I think I'm overthinking this. Well, I'm just bored, so I'm thinking about this as long as it's stimulating for me. Yeah, well, Fake Trap is definitely D. There's really something to say about these low deck cost negation trap. In the spell card tier list, I talked about how Harpy's Feather Duster isn't even that good. Like, it's worse than Heavy Storm, Dark Hole. Like, it's just worse than anything that would do the same thing that you want it to do, except, well, it's definitely not worse than Inexperienced Spy. That card is a lot worse, but it only counters one card, Harpy's Feather Duster, and that card isn't very good, so its niche use is basically just pointless. This card counters Raigeki. So again, I talked about how Raigeki is pretty good, but not perfect. And anti-Raigeki, it's not like it turns the duel around and lets you reselect it, or it protects your monsters but destroys the enemy ones. It actually just cancels it. So again, cards like this is basically a permanent magic jammer just for Raigeki. So if the enemy doesn't play Raigeki, it does nothing. And I don't even know if people would play Raigeki that much anyways. If they did, you would probably be using something else, like a better counter to it than a card that only counters one card. So this goes in the bin. I think Raigeki is a way better card than Harpy's Feather Duster though, so this definitely goes above. Yeah. This card, I think, is actually a bit more valuable, and I'll explain why. So, Call the Grave. This counters... this will shut down any revival effect, right? So, yeah, alright, it's 5 deck costs as well, so instead of just countering one card specifically, which is Raigeki and Harpy's Feather Duster, for anti-Raigeki and Fake Trap respectively, this shuts down Monster Reborn, Mimicat, Grave Robber. It also cancels the effect of Magician of Faith and Mask of Darkness and any other such card that has that revival effect. So this counters some of like the most powerful cards in the game, not just one, but like in the real card game, this just counters Monster Reborn specifically. But like the fact that this counters Mimicat, one of the best cards in the game, like you could actually consider playing one of these. Like, I actually think, I wouldn't say this is like the best card ever, but if you don't run any revival cards, and there was like a lot of people playing against each other would use revival cards, they're some of the most powerful cards. You can fit them in any deck, no matter how good or badly it is constructed, and it would be useful. This just counters all of that, and it's, yeah, 5 deck cost, and it's permanent, so the enemy would have to get rid of it before using revival spells, which is interesting. I wouldn't put it in A tier. I think high B tier, honestly. I do think the fact that you could literally, like, in the case of, like, think, where is Magic Jammer? Here it is. I was like, I thought it would be somewhere down the list. I didn't even realize it was the next one. If you think about Magic Jammer as a way to counter stuff like, Harpy's Feather Duster and Anti-Raigeki, which I swear these cards only work once, but this is permanent. I think this might be permanent. Maybe this is permanent as well. I thought Fake Trap was always one-time use. I'm pretty sure it is, because I have that effect or something. I don't know. Anyways, in the case of using Magic Jam to counter those cards, imagine, you know, if you're actually scared of Mimikats and Monster Reborn and finishing moves, using those cards, then that would be a legit way to stop that from happening, like, indefinitely. Obviously, it wouldn't counter Dark Hole, which is why Magic Jam is very good. But in the case this is permanent against someone who has like 3 Mimikats, 3 Monster Reborns, or someone who's using like Magician of Faith defensive strategy, they have to spend a turn getting rid of this before continuing their strategy, which basically, you know, that's a trade-off for your turn at minimum. If they don't get rid of it, then they don't actually continue their strategy. So it's a bit of a neutralizer in any strategy involving those cards. But Magic Jammer works against any of the Magic cards, and we talked about how many good ones there are. Like, there's Dark Hole, there's Change of Heart, there's just all the game-ending spells. Like, even just imagine cancelling a creature swap that would win a game. Salve, right? Magic Jammer I actually rate as a pretty decent card. I think it's very good. In the case of you having more than one, it's quite powerful. Again, that's another case where it's like, I can't rate a card if it's like, well, you have 3 of them out, so it's like overpowered. But some situations where you have cards that shut down the enemy, if you're in a situation where you can start playing them in a row, it would be beneficial. But there's all the possibility that the enemy activates spell cards that are of the least use to them before their more useful spells, and that can fake out a magic gem. So, in the case of being able to stop cards that are capable of ending the game, it is an effective counter card. However, this counter card can be countered. Well, I mean, the devs of the game didn't even consider any of this, probably. I don't think the devs thought about this game as much as I have, I'll tell you that. So, Magic Jammer. It's an ATS spell, you know what? This just counters anything that's a spell. If the enemy doesn't activate a good spell before their important game-ending one, it just whiffs it, and that could be pretty extreme in some circumstances. Okay, so, now, someone said White Hole belongs in the bin like the rest of these, but I disagree. This effect is a bit different. This doesn't cancel Dark Hole. It lets Dark Hole resolve, but protects all of your cards. So in the case of the enemy activating a Dark Hole and you have a White Hole, they lose. Like, they literally lose the game. And I have to rate this off the fact that it's countering Dark Hole specifically, and also in the notion that Dark Hole's a powerful card that I imagine a lot of people will be using it. So another property of this is it works no matter whose Dark Hole it is. So you can lay down face down White Hole, and then just play a Dark Hole, and you just kill all the enemy cards, and none of your cards are destroyed. So that takes you like one turn before any Dark Holes you activate to just protect all of your cards thereafter until the enemy uses a turn to destroy your White Hole when you already have an advantage. That's a pretty scary strategy to lose to. So I think this card is pretty insane. Again, it does require the use of Dark Hole to be present, so I can't rate it as like the best spell ever, but it's fucking, like, it's good. It breaks things. It breaks things. DC? No. Also, even for casual play, it's actually good. There are 2 duelists who have Dark Holes, which is the Chakra Final Boss and Necromancer, actually. I feel like I'm missing one person who has Dark Hole, but I doubt it. Yeah, I don't think so. Let's do B. It fits in right next to this card that also requires the effectiveness of other cards, and next to cards that require a defense position monster to work, but I mean that's the point of trap cards, right? You have to weigh in how useful they would be in most situations. Royal Decree. Oh. There's a Mac Daddy of traps. The trap card to rule all trap cards. So yeah, it's going straight in S. Like, there's no refuting that. It's just. What can I say about this card, right? Let's sum it up. This trap card doesn't have to worry about how good or bad any other trap card is. Every single other trap card in the game is equal compared to this one. That should give you a bit of perspective of the scale of things, if you think about it. Literally just think about that. Like, it doesn't matter what trap card you're trying to activate, this card doesn't care how powerful it is. It just works the same. Yeah, I like the skill drain and those sorts of cards. The cards I would have really liked to appear were the ones, I think, they ended up appearing in Battle City, but they were, like, in the original card game prior to that, like, around the release of the English version of this game. So, like, if they patched this game up and added more cards into it, which would have been cool, I would have liked to see someone like the Mask, Spell, and Trap cards. They, like, Mask of Restrict and stuff. That would be awesome. But yeah, like, it's 80 deck cost, but you don't have to worry about mirror forces or anything if you activate this. The enemy can't counter this without countering their own traps, because, you know, the only way to counter this would be another royal decree. So, you know, if the enemy's playing a bunch of mirror forces and you just have one of these, you literally don't have to worry about it. Like, that's how crazy it is. And, like, mirror force eclipses, like, every other trap card in the game. And then royal decree just doesn't give a fuck about mirror force. Even if it like, it doesn't care about... It gives such little fucks about mirror force that it can beat it while in attack mode. Tree of Enlightenment does do the same thing, but that requires you to play 3 summoning power. It also requires you to have it in face-up defense mode, which can be suspect to being countered. Probably more or less easily than a Royal Decree, I guess, but... Like, if you consider the enemy destroying Royal Decree with something practical like Heavy Storm, it will destroy all of their cards. So, that is also limited in effectiveness. Like, you could just play Royal Decree literally anywhere, and then you don't have to worry about any trap card in the game. That's just how it works. Yeah. It's literally like the solemn judgment of this game, but like a permanent one. Well, no, it doesn't cancel cards being played, but just in regards to trap cards, it is just, yeah. And yeah, that's also true. The enemy's setting up to, like... The enemy's setting up with 3 Mirror Forces and just expecting you to not have Royal Decree is insane. Also, just think about this as like a crazy strategy, right? Imagine someone's actually trying to white hole, like, and dark hole your Royal Decree. They can't do that because, well, if you did have a Royal Decree, which is a card that they're looking for, it's going to disable your white hole and kill everything. I mean, some situations the player might not care, but like, it's not a practical way to set up multiple trap cards and then try and destroy an enemy Royal Decree, because if there was one, it would destroy all your cards. So. Seal of the Ancients. Do you guys even know about this card? I think this is actually the worst card in the entire game, without even thinking about it. Without even thinking about it. Oh yeah, it's obviously D. I always considered making an F tier for it. It's that bad. Despite the fact that like 10-20 minutes ago I said I wouldn't add another one. Consider that. So, rituals are like the worst thing in the game. They're like the least efficient way to bring out any form of monster damage. It's... Oh my god. Like, I just want to take a second to talk about how bad this card is. The concept is just terrible. Like, okay, so... Think about how bad rituals are. You sacrifice 3 monsters to play 1 monster. So, you play 3 monsters and then that ritual spell, so it takes you 4 turns. Minimum 3 if you use a card like you flip up Kargeningen or you flip up a Doron and it gives you an extra turn's worth of monster material for like 2 monsters with lower than 1000 attack. So you can play 1, flip it up, and then take 1 less turn. So it takes you 4 or 3 minimum turns to play a ritual monster. And then you mill through your resources that all those 3 monsters you could have just stuck equips on straight out of your hand and they would be more powerful than a ritual monster is when it is made with a ritual spell. So rituals are like the most inefficient way to bring out damage possible, not just in terms of the material but also the time it takes to bring one out. And this card counters your ability to do that. So this card counters your conscious decision to burn your own resources to create something that is ultimately not worth it. Which means this card is ultimately not worth even that. Like, it's just infinitely worse than summoning a ritual is. Like, it's that bad. Yeah, it's just, oh. you -3 after, like, your enemy basically -3s for you. It just doesn't make sense. Mirror Force. Alright, so... it's obviously S tier. I mean, we're looking at these two cards. These are obviously S tier cards. So, of course, Royal Decree can beat them out, but remember, if you're actually playing around multiple Royal Decrees or multiple of these cards, it's a different story. Because Royal Decree also forbids you from running traps, so as great and almighty it is to play a Royal Decree and start attacking into the enemy, if you're playing Royal Decree, you can't really set up a strategy where your trap cards are effective until you get rid of it back off of the field. So, it's like a case of, would you rather want 3 Mirror Forces that are like basically going to win you every game that isn't going to have Royal Decree in it? Or would you rather run 3 Royal Decree and just never have to worry about Mirror Force or trap cards at the same time, not being able to play any of them yourself? It's a pretty interesting question, and debatable, arguable to a point where I don't think I'm really qualified to say which is better. That would depend on your deck and the way you play and everything. So, it is a great card. It is definitely S tier. So yeah, this card, it's a full range trap, just like this card is. If the enemy attacks any of your cards or your deck leader, it destroys all their attack position monsters. The only real effective way to counter this is to play cards in defense mode, but like playing cards in defense mode is never really that good unless you were purposely playing cautiously of this card. And even if that, like, if you had any other cards or any strategy that kept your opponent's monsters in attack position, it would be very, very hard to break through it, and it just basically, like, at the least, if there's no Royal Decree on the field, what it does is basically stop a direct attack, like, at least once. Like, it kills whatever attacks directly anywhere on the field. Like, that's the least amount of effectiveness it's going to have, is just destroying a direct attacking card, or destroying any attacking card. The enemy would have to have like a field full of defense position monsters and then attack with their weakest card or their most useless card to really counter this. Any other situation where you're actually trying to end the duel, this is very devastating. Alright, see you later, Bob. Thanks for checking in. I'm not considering PvE an insane amount. A little bit, but it's like, because the AI are so bad and trivial, it's hard to really judge things based on the AI, because yeah, if this is against the AI, then Mirror Force would just be the best card in the game, because you just play it face down, and then the enemy just keeps attacking into you. So, yeah. In saying that though, Mirror Wall is a pretty interesting card, so unlike Mirror Force, this actually stays on the field, so rather than being able to bait it out and attack through it once to get rid of it off of the field, the enemy actually have to get rid of this in order to continue attacking. Halving and the monster, like the attack of the monster is going to be like definitely over 1,000, maybe even 2,000 or more per hit. It goes down from there, but, you know, once you've dragged a monster down to like half of its attack already in one instance, there's like no... it doesn't really matter at that point, so... yeah, and then if you want to attack over it with a monster, it still loses attack. And, you know, getting rid of cards that are face up, that stay face up, in the same case with Royal Decree, is the enemy has to take... because, yeah, in this game, like, you know, play one card per turn. So the enemy would have to take a turn to remove a card like this, which kind of justifies playing it. You don't... it's not like it's in the real game like a +1 or a -1 if you play one of these trap cards. It's effectively a -1 until it's countered. If it's effective after a -1, like as you just played one card, then, well, yeah, it's justified. But if the enemy wants to counter it, then they basically go -1 for your -1 that you played. Hey, Alex. So, Mirror Wall is high on the list. It's definitely S tier. Because, as I mentioned, if the enemy doesn't get rid of this, it just completely ruins the enemy's ability to win the game, like, on any scale, unless they were at a level where they would have just crushed through you anyways. Hey River, unfortunately this stream is about to come to an end, just on the back of the fact that we have finished the trap card tier list, essentially. Top 3 cards are all banned. I wouldn't ban them. You know, you guys might think I'm insane, but I wouldn't even ban... at the start, like, if I was organizing, like, patches for an online version of this game, I would not ban Mirror Force. I would ban Ryoku, but not Mirror Force. Plus, I also consider... if there was an online version, theoretically, deck cost matchmaking, so the difference between having 3 of these cards compared to having 3, like, negate attacks would change your, like, algorithm of deck cost, like, matchmaking search range by, like, 250 deck cost or something ridiculous like that. Like, White Hole counters one of the most powerful spells in the game in a way that effectively turns it from one of the best cards in the game to a card that loses who plays it if it activates, so... And it's likely that someone's going to be playing Dark Hole more than it is the other cards that are contemporaries of that effect. And as I mentioned, the fact that you can play White Hole and then play a Dark Hole and just kill all of your enemy cards without any of your own is just absurd. It's one of the best things in the game. So, may be useless outside of that, but like because of the niche and specific of what it does, but it's a way more useful card than a lot of the other ones that only have a specific use for them. Yeah, 10 deck cost for White Hole. And the other negation ones are 5 deck cost. Like, remember, this card is 5 deck cost. I didn't take deck cost into account too much, unless the cards were, like, relative, then I think it matters. Like, if you think of these 2 cards next to each other, right? This stops the enemy from attacking. For one instance. This stops the enemy from playing defensive until they get rid of it. So you can put those value on a scale, and I think they're relatively equal. Even if this is only one instance, this could stop a direct attack in an emergency situation. Whereas this, like... You know, if the enemy is already in defense mode and the enemy just doesn't move the card, it doesn't do much, and the enemy is probably not going to be playing defense mode. Unless it's like spells and traps, so it's not going to change much. Like, it doesn't matter if you change a trap into defense mode or not, unless you're, like, forcing them to stay in attack mode for the sake of Mirror Force, but this doesn't actually force that to happen. If they've already played, like, face-down defense stuff, then this doesn't really do anything. It just stops them from playing anymore after you've activated it. And once you've activated it, then the enemy knows that they can't play in defense mode anymore, and this will never do anything apart from sit there and stop the enemy from playing cards in defense position. Which, you know... If you're gonna overwhelm their monsters, or if they're starting to play in defense mode, you're probably overwhelming them to the point that you probably win the duel anyway, right? It just kind of hinders anyone trying to stall in defense position for a few turns, which usually leads to inevitable loss. Fake Trap S++ tier, absolutely not. I kind of wish Fake Trap neutralized the other negation trap cards. That would make it kind of useful. Or what if it had its effect like in the real game, where if the enemy tried to nullify a trap card, then it would nullify this instead. But yeah, that would never happen. The game wasn't programmed like that. But yeah, Fake Trap just sucks. Anyways, this is like the list that I have. Can we scale this up actually? I don't know, it makes it like huge. Can you guys even still see that? Yeah, I think you can. Yeah, Fake Trap stopped Royal Decree. That'll be broken. I almost want to do this to make it look neater. Because again, I did shit talk Goblin Fan a lot before. It's a hard counter to Ryoku, that's basically all it is. But yeah, hard countering the most overpowered card in the game is probably a bit more merit than a card that's useless. Yeah, I wish cards like 7 Tools of the Bandit, those cards that were like early printed in Yu-Gi-Oh! That were in this game, I was always disappointed they weren't in this game. Same with Relinquished, Blue Eyes Toon Dragon. You're excited to start playing the game? I hope you are. Hope you enjoy when you return to playing the game. Yeah, I love that the sound effect the Magic Jammer makes. The Trap Jammer should make the sound effect how it's like whoosh, and then yeah, negates. Blue Eyes Toon Dragon should so be in the game. It's just the one card I think. I don't know why it's not in the game, because it was printed at the same time as like, it was printed at the same time as all the other cards that are in this game that are similar to it. Like Summon Skull, all the Toon cards. I think Jinzo came afterwards. The game, I think, was like well developed years before Jinzo came out. Well, not years, I think maybe 1 year difference Jinzo had, like, being released later after cards like Relinquished and stuff. Oh yeah, there's also Hyoza and Ryu. Oh, actually, I have an idea to extend the stream, because this is going pretty well, right? I've got like a few gimmicky tier lists that I can just tack on to the end of this stream. We can have a bit of fun with those, because they won't be as serious, so I don't need to overanalyze them. We can just have a bit of fun. But until then, what do you guys think of the tier list? I'm trying to, if you guys, we did this with a spell one, if you see anything that looks really strange, feel free to bring it up and we can talk about it. Because sometimes, in the case of like the last one, there are things that people point out that I'm like, oh yeah. And I look back and I'm like, oh, this doesn't make sense. I think someone pointed out that I had like all the life point damage and life point recovery spells clumped together, and it just didn't make sense, because like the way it was laid out insinuated that Miriam Courier was more powerful than Just Desserts, or no, Sparks was more powerful than Diane Kato the Cure Master, which is well, I know people are going to meme about it, you could argue it, but let's not go there, there's no point. That's a very, very petty debate. It's like one of those debates that's not actually worth debating because there's no clear answer. It's just niche versus niche. Yeah, they probably didn't have time. The game is very rushed. It's very obvious. I'm surprised too, because like, what deadline were they trying to meet? I think they were really trying to expand Yu-Gi-Oh! Very early in the 2000s in Japan before bringing it over, like before it was actually broadcast here, before it picked up like in the English-speaking world. Why should it be an A? This spell binds one card that goes in defense mode and then stops your opponent playing defense mode. It's not that broken. Gorgon's Eye is better than Shadow of Eyes, but I think it's still on the same level because these effectively do the same thing. Okay, so let's say... Okay, I'm going to talk about a trap card, right? Guess which one out of Gorgon's Eye Shadow of Eyes I'm talking about. So I'm going to place a trap card face down. The next turn, the enemy is going to attempt to put something in defense mode, and my trap card is going to stop that from happening. My trap card is now flipped face up, and the enemy now knows that they cannot play their cards in defense mode without something happening to them. Which card did I play face down? The whole point of that spiel was it could have been either of them. They basically do the same thing. The only difference is Gorgon's Eye stuns the first card that does it, whereas this doesn't. And that's just the first card, you know. No one's going to play in defense mode after these cards are face up. Yeah, well, Spellbind is better than Switch Back to Attack, which is why this is, you know, this is above Shadow Spell by the scale of a global, like, field-wide attack negation, a 3-turn stun with damage reduction, or a 4,000 attack monster being destroyed. So I have acknowledged that this card is better than this card, but it's not that much better. It is not that much better. It spellbinds. The only card it will spellbind is a card that triggers this. After that, after either of these cards are flipped face up, no one is going to play any cards in defense mode either way, so these cards are actually pretty close together. It only really makes a difference of that first card that's now, it can't be activated. The difference would only matter in the case of, I believe, a spell card. A spell card being spellbound is a lot worse than it not being spellbound. Any other circumstances, this card is basically the same thing. Call the Grave could ruin a Darkness Approach's spammer's day, though that spell would probably be banned for sure. Yeah, it probably would. I mean, I would. The thing is, I don't really want to ban anything in this game, but it's like, rather than banning Magician of Faith and Mask of Darkness and all these other cards, if you just ban Darkness Approaches, no one would be able to reduplicate spells. But in the case of, think about people playing decks that actually could just shut down those effortlessly. Maybe they would involve Call the Grave. But like, imagine just making a deck that just can beat an enemy before they reduplicate enough spells or traps or anything for it to matter. It will be an annoying strategy to beat because you could do stuff like first turn, dump Mirror Force with Magician of Faith and then flip Magician of Faith up to revive it, and that way on your first turn you've played your first Magician of Faith. And then the second turn, you can dump Darkness Approaches with a second Magician of Faith, and then revive Darkness Approaches. So on your second turn, you have both Magician of Faith, a Mirror Force, and a Darkness Approaches, and then you can just keep reduplicating spells. That's a pretty scary strategy, but yeah, that's somewhat off topic. CV. Just Pot of Greed do. I don't know, man, you ever read its effect? It's written in English. See, I don't know, man. You're asking me about Pot of Greed. The only card I know is Solomon's Lawbook, right? Yeah, I know it's a meme, but I don't think it's a really funny one. Okay. So, you guys agree on this or what? Is this the final one? Yeah, I mean, you can only see so many of the third-rate duelists with a fourth-rate deck memes before it's not funny anymore. Okay, well, we're happy with this, so this is a tier list you're seeing on the screen right now. Again, it's not official, but I don't know, I was bored, decided to do it, and justify the positions as I went on. Let's move on to a different tier list, a bit more of a fun one, not a serious one. I'll save that for another stream. Alright, so... guess we can do map layouts, we can judge how cool the map layouts are. No, it's you've just activated my trap card. Get it right, jeez. Nah, just messing around. So there's that one, or how cool the ritual cards look. Like how cool the ritual monsters are. We'll judge them completely just ignoring how cool they are to summon because they're all bad to summon. Which one you guys want to do? Do one of them. Ritual, maps, oh. We're gonna have another 50-50 on them. Art. What about art? I don't draw. I'm not doing art. Well, what am I gonna do? I don't know. Maps then. Alright. Ritual, you mean? Okay, so we have one of each and then someone who changed their answer from one to the other for the coin. I'd just rather more people say what they want, so I don't know which one to do. I mean, I'm assuming you guys watching probably be happy either way. Let's just do the map layouts one, because this is guaranteed to be casual, scot-free. Alright, yeah, here are our tiers. Can you guys even see this that well? Yeah, cool. So, we can do a tier list that... I wish I included the custom map ones, actually. The custom duel ones. So we can just judge all the maps that are in the game. We're basically... This tier list is going to be not about how cool and engaging the map is, but how cool it looks. How not, like, based on how accurately does it represent something real or nice. Like the setting it's in, or the monument that really ties in with the field and the world. And what maps are just total bullshit. So, we've separated the tiers from aesthetic as fuck, inspired, simple yet admirable, not good, and what the fuck. I think some are missing. I don't know why I don't have... Oh, wait. No, I think they're all here, right? Oh, yeah, that's right, because I didn't include... I included Stonehenge as 1. I included Stonehenge as 1. We're just going to rate them all as a 1 because it's the same thing. Okay. Let's go one at a time. So, the look of this one is just weird. I don't know what it's supposed to be. My assumption, this is me, like, you really have to use your imagination for some of these, I believe. This one, what I think may be possible is like a poisoned forest. Like, there's like a virus in the forest or something, so there's just like these four, basically, I don't know, maybe they're like poisoned trees that branch out. I don't know, I don't think they were actually going for that. Bakura is Shadow Realm in the forest, you reckon? Because it's like, that just makes me wish they gave him a dark deck. I don't know why they didn't. I guess they, yeah. Just with plants, it's very interesting that it's like forest and crush. And yeah. The look of it is just like, a lot of the crush doesn't look very good. It's a bit of an eyesore. But I do kind of think they were going for something like, yeah, a forest that it just had something a bit dark and edgy to it, so I think there's some truth to what you were saying about the Shadow Realm from Season 1. I think it was that sort of dark and edgy vibe, so it is admirable in a sense. I wouldn't say it's inspired, we're probably stretching it to even put it this far. I think they were probably just like, oh, we need a deck with Forest and Crush, let's just put it in. In that case it goes not good, but wasting our imagination here. This one, I think, is supposed to be the Isle of Man between, I don't even know the geometry of the Isle of Man relative to how it's off the coast of England, unless that's where Wales is, at that west side of the island. It's between England, or just that island, and then Ireland, I think. So maybe what they were going for is like it's an island here between the two shores, but it just doesn't really make sense. I don't know how much it figures apart from the water around the island. The crush being there and the wasteland in the middle, it's like, is this island just a barren wasteland with like molten rock? Is this like supposed to be a volcano? Is that what they were going for? Like, this is volcanic, a series of volcanoes, like with the water channels between them? I really don't know. Yeah, I don't like dueling Bakura, because I hate the LP recovery thing, and yeah, the low deck cost, it's like, what's the point? Not good. Yeah, it's not good. So we got this one. So I'm putting this in simple yet admirable, because I totally understand what they were going for. This is a box where he is dark and edgy, and he plays his, you know, all of his spellcasters and his 2 trap cards and whatnot. And then as you get closer to it, it becomes a bit more barren seeming. You have grass, like living grass, then just, you know, water. Maybe that's just like a moat around this castle, who knows. That's very admirable. And then there's some mountains, and then some wasteland. You could probably dispute the order of these different things could be better, and maybe they could have had like forest at this end or something, but it doesn't really matter. I know what they were going for, and it's pretty decent. But yeah, playing it is really fucking annoying. Alright, so this goes in what the fuck. Just a bunch of lines. It's just stupid. It's lazy. Like, they could have been so much more creative, and this is more in hindsight and replaying the game a lot, but I really do not appreciate some of the duels like Joey that are just the field, and their deck is just a bunch of random shit. Like, it just doesn't make sense, and it ruins the duel quite a bit. It's the same with Tristan's, and it's the same with Yugi's. It's just, look, a bunch of lines, and this one is literally just a pattern, one of every single tile in a repeating order, so that it desyncs, and like the labyrinth or each tile moves over by 1 after 3 rows. It's just like, it is very strange. It just doesn't make anything. I don't think Grandpa's is, you know, actually, no, you're right, it's inspired, but I don't think it's aesthetic as fuck. There's gonna be better maps that we're gonna pick, but, I think they could have done a better job with this. I think even for what they were going for, like, his own little building, everything outside of that and what they were going for is not as well executed. But it is a lot more pleasing to look at than a lot of these other things, so yeah, it's definitely inspired. Keith's one, I would say, is simple yet admirable. I think this is more appealing looking than some of these. It's just a simple pattern, so I can't say too much about it. I do appreciate, in the gameplay perspective, when they do stuff like adding Labyrinth to break it up. I feel like the White Rose side of things, that campaign needed more enemies with Labyrinth. Like, the only one with Labyrinth on that side, aside from the two last enemies, like the final bosses, is Grandpa. No one else on that side has Labyrinth. So I appreciate all these duels where it's like they went for something, it changes the way they play. That's not really how I'm rating it though. I do appreciate the neat pattern, it's a lot easier on the eyes than some of these, but it's not mind-blowing. Tristan's meant to be London. I wish, but would it really be with forest on one side, wasteland on the other, and then a strip of normal at each side? Like, is there a pathway on both sides? And then, I don't know. If it's supposed to be London, River Thames, my mind is blown. I've never ever considered that before, so... Like, I think it's a very obscure reference. I don't think they were going for that at all. When you consider Joey's map looks like this and Yugi's map looks like this, I'm sure they were going for, like, yeah, I don't know. Nothing. So, this one, not good. I'm not gonna put it in, you know what, actually I am. This is in what the fuck category for sure. It's basically these maps, but this is so strange to look at now that I think about it. It's basically this map plus this map in the one, but with a bunch of Labyrinth, Rose, and Crush. It's just, what the fuck am I looking at? It actually looks terrible. Like, this is not... I don't think this is inspired at all. If this was actually a maze you could navigate through, I would be putting this way up here. But they fucked this up so hard. In terms of how the map looks, it's terrible. It's asymmetrical. In every way apart from looking at it sideways, which you wouldn't. You don't play sideways. Two pools in the middle. Yeah, and it's like, I like that, but it just... It's so strange to me. Like, why isn't this actually a maze? They could have done, like, up there, remove this one, so you had to go, like, I don't know, like that or something. Yeah, asymmetrical sucks. Speaking of symmetrical, that's why this one is pretty good. Well, not amazing, but... Like, it's not inspired. It feels like they could have done a lot more with this. But... it's symmetrical. I'm not looking at anything particularly ugly here, so... It's admirable. They kept it simple, and I think keeping it simple worked wonders for some of these over the other weird ones. This one is inspired for sure. I might even put this up here actually, aesthetic as fuck, because this is obviously the Strait of Dover. This is between England and France, so... It's perfect. The only kind of funny thing about this is, you know how you're trying to get from here to here, right? It takes you out in a boat, and then you duel him starting here, and he's there. Why don't you just walk here, and then you're in France? Or swim here and you're in France. I mean, why duel him back when he's over in England when you're in France? Like, you're already in France. It makes no sense. But it is very cool. I definitely went with, liked what they were going for. This is an example that kind of raises your expectations for some of the other duels in what they deliver. Yeah, the perspective would have looked a bit wonky if they did it the other way. So I kind of understand what they were going for, because this map, when you're in the level, in the duel, is the same perspective as on the map. So I think it makes more sense for them to do it this way. So I'm not going to fault them for not doing it the other way at all. I definitely agree with the decision to have it this way, because it syncs with the map. So this is aesthetic as fuck. They did excellent. Like, I know it's very simple, but that's part of what makes it good. They didn't fuck around with it too much. They didn't try to make it crazy or fancy. They literally just made it the area it was supposed to be based around, and it looks really cool. Aqua Dragon was the yeah, go there and plant it. Go there and plant it. Okay, this one is kind of symmetrical. So this one, again, if I was talking about how the AI interacted with the maps, then it will be a bit higher, just because like the way he moves to this side and places monsters roughly around this area is pretty cool. This is symmetrical. This part that goes in here is the same as this. And they also broke up like these opposite things, like warriors. You're very likely to have warrior cards breaking it up with water. It's pretty interesting. They're basically, it's almost like two bridges over like a river in the middle. I think this is pretty nice. Yeah, I wouldn't put this in not good. I almost think this is inspired, but I do think imagination is getting the better of me. I think they were probably trying less hard with this than they were some of these other maps that they thought were pretty interesting. So, can't give it too much credit. This one, now I reckon this is really cool. In the context of, this is a dark area in a forest, is basically what it's telling you. Use your imagination, you imagine everything outside this dark area is just a big patch of forest. This is basically what, like, Bakura's map should be, right? Something like this. In the case of it being curved, I think it was because they predicted that the AI would play around here. The AI is vaguely programmed around this map in some way, shape, or form, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, like, it's still, the vibe is the same. What's the water tiles about in Bones map? Well, I'm pretty sure what it is a river just dividing the two sections between the grass and the dry area, and then maybe some bits there's like a channel of water underneath some of the grass, a patch of grass. Or just, you know, ground on top of grass with, like, yeah, some... Why is Fiend weak on forest terrain? I think the idea is that forest is like the place of nature and like peaceful creatures, like harmonious animals and stuff, and then fiends are like demons, like they're unnatural beasts. So they're not really welcome in a place like the forest. That's my interpretation. Alright, aesthetic as fuck. I think this goes at the top. Now, I know Toon is a bit of an eyesore to look at. I think that's to do more with the way the graphics are dated in the game. But this is cool as hell. You have your patch of meadow down here. In the middle, you have the castle doors, the castle walls, right? These are the castle walls. These are bridges. And then this water here is basically a moat. He's extended the bridges out so you can duel him. And then all inside, with the exception of these tiles that make up the bridges, that's how, like, you can tell it's a bridge because it's like a 1x3 long tiles. Everything in this side, apart from the bridge that lays on top of that and the water, is Toon terrain. That's his turf. That's basically, you know, maybe he laid out some very elaborate carpet in his, you know, because he's Seto Kaiba. He's a very eccentric man. Maybe he let out some rainbow carpet and it boosts all the damage of his cards and reduces yours. This has to be like one of the best, if not the best, in the game. They did an excellent job on this. It's very easy to identify what this is when you have 7x7 tiles to work with. They did a very good job of keeping it not just looking like one of the best maps in the game, but also being extremely practical. Like, they did a great job with this, all things considered. This one is even, simple yet admirable. Again, it's a case where they, you know, weighed up a way to break up the pace by adding Labyrinth in the maze. And this is just 3 rows, so it's not very good, it's not very creative, but it does look better than some of these. Definitely looks better than all of these, so. This one, now you're probably going to... I really want to put this in aesthetic as fuck, but they fucked up. There are no mountains around Bosworth, so a better depiction of this map, if they were going for Bosworth Field, would be meadow surrounded by a forest. What? Forest instead of Labyrinth for who? What's supposed to be Jurassic? Oh, I get what you mean for Rex's. Maybe refresh. I think you're behind by quite a bit. Yeah, a bit of forest would have been cool to spice it up, actually. Like, a row or two of forest on your side would have been awesome. Especially considering, for some, like, the Weevil map has a few patches of wasteland. So it would have been cool if they threw you a bone in the wasteland field by giving you a few patches of forest. There's not as much forest as there is wasteland. Or darkness. Maybe as much as darkness. But yeah, this one, I'd say it's inspired. It is definitely inspired. I do want to put it in aesthetic as fuck. The difference is, Bosworth Field doesn't actually have mountains around it, so this doesn't actually accurately represent it. It's like just forest around patches of grass. That's what Bosworth Field looks like, and it's always looked like that. You know, mountains don't form in the scale of like the last 5 centuries, so... Normal tiles are surrounded by labyrinth. No, I would rather they go for this. I like what they were going for here. I really do. I want to like it more, but they put in mountain, which is incorrect. So I have to say it's inspired, but they got it wrong. So I deduct a point for that. This one, oh, not good. It's probably even in the what the fuck level, but holy crap. It's just 4 different things around a plus of crushed tiles. It's just... not good at the best, what the fuck at the worst. It is completely asymmetrical, but yeah. So maybe it goes down. Or maybe no. Ooh. These are all pretty ugly, aren't they? Now that I think about it. Yeah, Shardy's is awkward. And, like, it boosts his deck, but his strongest card's a Fiend, and he's on the complete opposite side, and it's really difficult for you to get him to this side of the field. You have to do it on purpose, basically. Alright, oh, the Stonehenge. I think this is the best one. Now, it's extremely difficult to accurately depict the rocks in the Stonehenge using this map, so they did a very, very good job. They probably did the best job you could do. I would personally rearrange the Stonehenge from a gameplay perspective. I would block off this tile and this tile, but that's knowing how you can abuse going straight through the middle of the game. The way they designed the game and put this together is very, very cool. A bit of a nitpick, I don't think that these tiles here should be forest necessarily, because like the Stonehenge, on the scale of Stonehenge, if this was a Stonehenge, you'd have grass all the way out to like here. Like, it would be a lot. Like the whole screen, basically. before you touched forest, but you know, it adds a bit of a nice level to it. It makes it feel like there's only a bit of, like maybe it was their depiction of the older Stonehenge, like the one in the game, I guess, where it's these kind of form, like think about the opposite corners of these forming like of each of these labyrinth tiles forming more than one rock, or representing more than one rock, rather. And then this is just one big strip, like a big circle around it of grass, and then everything after that is forest. Because in the background of the intro cutscene, you can kind of see forest in the background, so maybe that's it. But I still think it's the best in the game. And I honestly think it's the most aesthetic. And normal, in my opinion, normal is aesthetic in the fact that it's basically... it can represent anything from just flat concrete to just human manufactured, like, you know, say, the inside of a church, or... In this case, the rocks, just, they would have paved the ground of that sacred area, and then dueling on top of it, and then it's really, really cool. The normal terrain itself, like, when you battle on it, represents a church, but it's very, very aesthetic. I think it looks really cool. Like, that's what I imagine vaguely what the inside of this Stonehenge would look like if you were battling in that arena. Just the outside wouldn't be a church building, it would be the Stonehenge rocks. Just swap that out, and then you have basically the same thing. So it's really cool. This one is... yeah, it's just in the what the fuck level. It is basically Yugi's, but with less stuff. There's less ugly stuff I'm looking at, and there's more normal, which is nice. And if you think about it, the normal will go in 2x2, and then match 2x2, and then 2x2. This one's 2x2, then 2x2. Well, I'm trying to entertain myself a lot with that. I can't say a lot that's good about it. And not good, or what the fuck for this one. I'm gonna say not good. I wouldn't put it as bad as what the fuck, but I mean, these uneven splodges are very what the fuck worthy. Like, the whole thing's forest, and then they're just like, okay, we'll put 3 random wasteland tiles, just because why the fuck not? In any random, basically, configuration, so... Labyrinth in the middle for Stonehenge? Yeah, they could have. That would have been a nice way to make it seem more like a... what's it called? The center ring, surrounded by an outer ring or whatever. But I still stand by the idea, maybe you guys have seen me talk about this in the stream, but you know how Seto moves right here, right? Seto moves right here. The idea is, you move here, right? And then you're playing here, he's playing there. Imagine that, like, flip this 45 degrees. Imagine that this is basically where you duel from, and that's where he duels from, and then you cut through the labyrinth like that. So, it's kind of like you're standing between 2 rocks. Your deck leader's protected by them, but you're playing monsters in the middle of the Stonehenge. And yeah, it would become very similar to the Keith arena. A bit more similar, not quite the same. Because in that one, you wouldn't be able to stand in a corner and play stuff in the middle. In the Stonehenge, you can, and there's nothing stopping you from moving it around in the middle until you get to the outside. Then you have to go across the center of either plane. So this was just a bit of a fun list after the other one. I appreciate you guys coming in the stream, which is why I did this extra little bit at the end, just for fun. But I am going to go on to do other things. So, yeah, thanks a lot for popping in, and I'll see you guys in another stream whenever I decide to stream again. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you later.